Call the police, that woman is destroying our property values. That's what HOA President Brenda Thornfield shrieked across Maple Ridge Drive at 7 a.m., jabbing her manicured finger at my wife for the crime of planting wildflowers in her own front yard. Patricia was kneeling in the damp Colorado soil, hands deep in rich loam that smelled like morning rain and possibility, hair escaping a messy ponytail, rattiest gardening jeans, a trowel, and a carton of columbine seedlings. The squad car rolled up, door popped, and the officer took 3 brisk steps toward the dangerous criminal tending her garden beds, then stopped dead. His jaw literally dropped. "Your Honor, Judge Blackwood." On the curb, Brenda's clipboard hit the sidewalk with a plastic clatter. Her mouth opened and closed like a trout on the dock. "Oh, did I forget to mention my wife sentences people for a living? What would you do if a neighborhood Karen called the cops on you for gardening? Drop your nightmare below. Where are you watching from, and does your block have one of these people? I'm Marcus Blackwood, 58, retired Colorado Springs firefighter. 32 years of running into burning buildings while sensible folks ran out. Patricia's been a municipal court judge for 15 years. DUIs, parking disputes, petty harassers who think a loud voice beats a written statute. We moved into Willowbrook Estates 3 years ago for a quiet retirement. Curved streets named after trees that were cut down to build them. Committees of beige enthusiasts approving beige paint. Toddlers leaving chalk on sidewalks that somehow offends the exact sort of person who polishes a clipboard. Our ranch is modest, nothing fancy. Patricia fell in love with the big front lawn because she'd dreamed of a real garden after years of balcony planters and office windows. Enter Brenda, 62, former real estate agent. Biggest house on Maple Ridge, useless columns announcing self-importance, and 6 consecutive terms as HOA president because no one else wants to attend meetings about mailbox paint. The first 2 years were fine. Dues paid, grass trimmed, jumper cables lent, waves exchanged. Then spring came and Patricia decided to replace thirsty Kentucky bluegrass with native Colorado wildflowers. Columbine, blanket flower, Indian paintbrush, lavender borders humming with bees. She'd done the reading, the watering plan, the soil amendments. She was bringing Colorado back to Colorado. The first fine landed like a mosquito at a picnic. Non-conforming vegetation, Brenda declared at 7:30 a.m., marching up our walk in pressed slacks and enough perfume to stun. Elk, $200. Patricia stood, dusted her knees, and asked calmly, "Which specific covenant?" Brenda recited, Section 12.4, Community Aesthetic Standards. Patricia had read every page. 12.4 says remove dead stuff, keep yards tidy, grass at reasonable height. Nothing about plant species or aesthetic judgments. "I know what I meant when we wrote these," Brenda sniffed. And there it was. Not rules. Power. The next week we discovered 3 other families targeted. Frank, a Vietnam vet, fined for tomatoes where his late wife's roses once grew. Vegetables are inappropriate for front display. Sarah, a single mom, dinged $300 to remove unsightly temporary markings. Kids chalk. An elderly widow cited for excessive bird feeding because morning bird song disrupted Brenda's calls. Pattern: elderly, stretched, different, anyone less likely to fight. When Patricia refused to pay, a certified letter arrived. Fine doubled to $400 after an emergency board meeting. Unanimous vote. 10 days or lien. Patricia phoned the board. 2 were out of town. 1 had never heard of the meeting. Brenda's unanimous majority was Brenda, her neighbor Dorothy, and Dorothy's napping husband Carl. Colorado law requires notice and a hearing before fines. None happened. Patricia filed a formal complaint with the state HOA Oversight Division and kept gardening. Brenda started circling at 6 a.m. in her Lexus, photographing a coiled hose like evidence in a felony case. That's when we realized, fine print wins fights. Patricia would build a record, and that record would tell a story even Brenda couldn't outshout. Brenda's surveillance routine became our neighborhood alarm clock, engine idling, AC blasting, shutter clicks capturing the scandal of a slightly brown blade of grass, a coiled hose, a newspaper at 6:15 a.m., Frank adjusted his walk to wave. At her, making her retreat like a deer that knows it's being seen. What Brenda didn't see was what Patricia had started, an evidence file. During evening jogs, grocery line chats, and doorstep conversations, she collected neighbor stories and cross-checked them against covenants and state statute. The pattern was surgical. Elderly widows, excessive bird feeding, single, parents, bicycles improperly stored, veterans, non-standard license plate holder, fines often hit when 3 board members were verifiably out of town. She's not just power-hungry, Patricia said, eyes cold the way they get when she sees a pattern she can prosecute. She's calculating. 2 days after Patricia's refusal, our fine doubled again. The letter claimed an enhanced penalty vote. Patricia asked each board member if they'd been notified. 2 missed calls, 1 chuckle. I've been in Denver all week, Judge. Brenda wasn't just ignoring notice and hearing requirements. She was forging the concept of governance. So Patricia did what judges do. She filed the right form to the right state office with the right case law attached. And then she pressed a quiet nuclear button the next morning. The Colorado Secretary of State's Business Registry. HOAs are corporations in Colorado. SCIP required annual filings long enough, and the state dissolves your status. Brenda had missed 2 years. Willowbrook Estates, on paper, didn't exist as a legal corporation anymore. No corporation means no standing to impose fines, collect assessments, or threaten liens. Patricia called the Oversight Division. File your complaint and include corporate status, the analyst advised, and document everything. We did. Meanwhile, Brenda escalated like people do when the rules turn against them. She tried to weaponize the architectural review process with a thick, certified letter. Our garden needed landscape modification approval by a 3-member panel. Hearing in 48 hours. Expert witness present. Patricia smiled the courtroom. Smile that has made seasoned defense attorneys reconsider life choices. She wants a hearing? She said, opening the closet where her robes hang. Let's give her a hearing. The community center basement smelled like potlucks and school board meetings. Brenda sat at a folding table with Dorothy and dozing. Carl, a briefcase for a garden hearing. Patricia walked in wearing full judicial robes, pressed, badge gleaming, hair in a sentencing day bun, and greeted everyone as good evening. Let's discuss Colorado law regarding HOA authority over indigenous plant cultivation. She placed a legal brief on the table. Statutes, case citations, printed covenant excerpts, and labeled photos with Latin names. The expert, Brenda's business partner Roger, melted under a simple question. Can you differentiate Aquilegia caerulea from Aquilegia chrysantha? State flower versus its yellow cousin. It's not about species, he stammered. Patricia's raised eyebrow did the rest. Then she pulled out photos of Brenda's backyard. An ornamental fence 8 inches over the 6-foot limit. A hot tub 4 feet inside a 15-foot setback. A pond installed sans review. Are these in compliance? She asked, pen scratching, notes that sounded like a clock winding down. The hearing ended with Brenda declaring it concluded when asked to cite the clause regulating native plants. Patricia's file grew thicker, but Brenda pivoted to the neighborhood's wallet. A red-stamped emergency special assessment letter, $5,000 per household, to pay legal expenses caused by a selfish neighbor. She called a mandatory meeting to sell it. She chose the same beige basement where she'd just lost face. Sunday at 2 p.m., the community center was packed tighter than a commuter train. Retirees who hadn't attended an HOA meeting in 5 years clutched Brenda's assessment letter like subpoenas. Young families bounced fussy toddlers. The air carried a potluck's ghost, fried chicken, green beans, anxiety. Brenda stood in a navy blazer that screamed, "Trust me with your money," flanked by Dorothy and semi-conscious Carl. A wheezy projector glowed, "Legal Defense Fund, $35,000. Friends and neighbors," she said with real estate sincerity, "we face unprecedented legal costs from one household's harassment." Patricia rose from the back row wearing jeans and a sweater, no robes this time, but her posture changed the temperature. Before we discuss assessments, she asked, voice clear as a gavel, which attorney is representing the HOA? Morrison Burke and Associates, Brenda replied. Patricia nodded. Interesting. Because according to a Colorado Open Records Act response, Willowbrook has paid $47,000 to Thornfield Property Solutions over 2 years for consulting. Your company, Mrs. Thornfield, $8,000 billed for landscape consulting in months when no landscaping was approved or completed. A murmur built. Frank stood. She charged me $50 for weed removal in my Memorial Rose Garden. Invoice went to the same company. Sarah added, she told me my vegetable garden fine-funded community beautification. The check went to Thornfield Property Solutions. The room went from warm to cold. Furthermore, Patricia continued, the HOA's corporate status was dissolved 18 months ago for unpaid filings. That means every fee, fine, and assessment collected since then was taken in the name of an entity that didn't legally exist. Mrs. Peterson whispered. What does that mean? Patricia's tone softened. It means you've been paying a person, not a corporation, for authority she didn't have. Silence pulsed. Someone's phone chirped and died. A toddler announced, potty to the universe. Frank's gravelly voice broke the spell. Lady, are you telling us you've been stealing our money? Brenda's voice cracked into a higher register. I have worked tirelessly, every fee funds maintenance. Then show us the bank statements, Patricia said, perfectly calm. Brenda grabbed her briefcase, knocked over a chair, and fled, up the stairs shouting something about my attorney. The door slam sounded like a sentence. Patricia and her paralegal friend had already pulled Secretary of State records. 2 missed corporate filings, status dissolved. Bank routing info from invoices matched personal accounts, not HOA accounts. Jennifer, the paralegal, cross-referenced violation dates with board member travel. Brenda issued fines during weeks when the board couldn't meet. Another data set, discrimination. Elderly residents, single parents, families who didn't fit Brenda's aesthetic, all targeted at higher rates, all paying under pressure. Over $23,000 in fees had gone into accounts only Brenda controlled. Patricia spread the evidence on our kitchen table that night like a general planning a campaign. Bank records, corporate filings, violation notices, timestamps, photos, neighbor statements. We could send this to the DA tomorrow, she said. But that gets restitution, maybe probation. Justice isn't just punishment, it's stopping the harm and fixing the community. So what do you want to do? I asked. Patricia smiled, the smile that means she's about to surprise opposing counsel. Give Brenda what she's been demanding, a community that follows the rules. All of them. Operation Wildflower. Justice began at breakfast. Frank, unwilling hero for interim president. Sarah, spreadsheet assassin for treasurer-in-waiting. Patricia filing articles of incorporation to restore the HOA legally, paying back fees, scheduling elections with proper notice. A civil attorney queued up to freeze accounts and pursue triple damages under the Consumer Protection Act. A private group for neighbors to safely upload evidence. A resource site Sarah mocked up with Know Your Rights, sample letters, and how to spot HOA fraud checklists. By noon, the HOA existed again, legally. Frank hated being president and accepted anyway. We weren't after revenge, we were after repair. Bullies rarely retire gracefully. Within 48 hours, Brenda filed a complaint with the Commission on Judicial Discipline accusing Patricia of weaponizing her office. 3 single-spaced pages of procedural nonsense. Patricia filed it in. Her People Who Don't Understand How Courts Work folder. A bargain bin PI appeared on our street taking not subtle photos from a sedan, then was caught on a courthouse ring camera creeping near Patricia's parking spot. Flyers littered windshields. Corrupt judge lives among us. Fonts from a conspiracy zine, grainy robe photo, exclamation points like confetti. At the garden center checkout, Brenda stage whispered, "That's the judge's husband. They think they're better than everyone." Patricia's court administrator called about an anonymous demand that she recuse from all municipal cases involving HOAs countywide. Absurd? Yes. But harassment eats days and attention even when it's laughable. Then came Sunday night. Brenda stormed our yard to scold my 78-year-old mother-in-law watering flowers, ordering her to control your daughter. Frank witnessed it with dog and disgust. Monday, a certified package, Thornfield v. Blackwood, federal civil rights lawsuit claiming Patricia abused power to intimidate a lawful HOA leader, demanding damages and removal from the bench. Legal nonsense in a suit and tie still wastes time. Tuesday, Brenda escalated to spectacle, protesting in the municipal court lobby with a cardboard sign, "Corrupt Judge Blackwood, where is justice?" Security can't remove a protester from a public lobby without cause, but Detective Ray Kowalski recognized both the judge and crazy. "What specific cases has Judge Blackwood heard that involve you?" he asked, notebook ready. "Well, none yet, but she could," Brenda said. "So you're protesting potential bias in cases that don't exist?" He asked for ID, ran routine checks, 3 unpaid parking tickets, a bench warrant for failure to appear on a speeding ticket, issued by the same court whose lobby she was occupying. "Ma'am," Ray said, professional and tired, "I need you to come with me." Her sign hit the floor with a cardboard slap. It should have ended there, but desperation is a bad strategist. 2 days later, Brenda dialed 911 to report destruction of community property, our garden still blooming in defiant color, claiming that as HOA president, anything violating her standards belonged to the community. I texted Frank to bring whoever he could. Neighbors materialized on lawns like we'd all received the same summons. Miss Peterson brought her walker and a look that could curdle milk. Sarah positioned her phone like a documentarian. Officer Ray stepped from his cruiser, scanned the crowd, and walked toward Patricia, kneeling by columbines. "Your Honor," he said, and those words retuned the morning. Gasps, whispers. A veteran squared his shoulders. Brenda's folder slipped, papers fluttering across her perfect grass. She pointed, sputtered, cycled colors like a faulty stoplight. "Ma'am," Ray asked mildly, "are you filing a complaint that a municipal judge is gardening in her own yard?" Frank's voice cut through. "Officer, this woman's been stealing from our neighborhood for 2 years. In that moment, the neighborhood flipped. Fear to relief, whispers to witness statements, rumor to record. Headlines are allergic to beige. Within 48 hours of Ray's lobby arrest and the 911 garden farce, Brenda resigned from Willowbrook and 3 other boards where Thornfield Property Solutions consulted. The federal lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice. Lawyer for hire pros reduced to judicial side-eye. The Attorney General's office moved quicker than anyone expected in an election year tuned to real people's money. Charges, theft, fraud, false reports. Brenda pled, took 3 years probation, paid full restitution, and accepted a permanent ban from HOA boards in Colorado. The checks were satisfying, but not as sweet as what came next. We held proper elections in October, mailed notices, open nominations, ballot count on camera. Frank won president unanimously, grumbling through his acceptance about never wanting the job. Sarah became treasurer because she understands spreadsheets better than most CPAs. Patricia declined any role, judicial ethics, and a preference for gardens over gavels. The recovered funds, with interest and penalties, hit $34,000, enough to seed a community garden on the strip where Brenda's consulting once consumed dues. Basil, tomatoes, blanket flower, and kids learning the difference between a weed and a plant someone else doesn't like. Frank donated a slice of his pension to start the Willowbrook Educational Scholarship, Law, Public Service, or Ag Sciences. 3 recipients so far, including Sarah's daughter, who wants to be a civil rights attorney because she watched her mom turn fear into filings. Home values didn't crash. They rose 15% as word spread about a community that enforces governance, not preferences. Patricia's wildflower garden became a minor celebrity, a feature in Colorado gardening, a case study at CSU on native restoration. We host the Wildflower Festival the first weekend in June. Bluegrass food trucks, kids' chalk art sanctioned and celebrated. Frank's barbecue perfuming the cul-de-sac while bees and neighbors get along just fine. The state legislature passed the Thornfield Accountability Act. Stronger HOA oversight, automatic public notices when corporate status lapses, penalties for collecting while dissolved. Patricia speaks at judicial conferences about small tyrannies and the power of ordinary statutes used persistently. Last week, a new neighbor asked Frank how Willowbrook became drama-free. Frank's grin tasted like black coffee and satisfaction. "We had plenty of drama," he said. "Then we got rid of the person causing it." As for Brenda, she moved to Arizona. Early reports, pool violations, and unpleasant conversations with maintenance staff. Some people never meet. The Mirror. Your takeaway. Before you pay a disputed fine, ask for proof your HOA's corporate status is current. Document everything. Timestamps, photos, certified mail receipts. Patterns of selective enforcement aren't annoying. They can be illegal discrimination. And find your Frank, someone who will stand up when clipboards try to crown themselves king. Share your HOA horror story below. Your experience might be the blueprint someone else needs. If you like watching communities turn fear into policy and paperwork into power, subscribe to HOA Stories and ring the bell. Next week, the parking enforcer who ticketed the city's new transportation director's car while she watched. Turns. Out knowledge beats authority when authority forgets the law. Community justice tastes sweeter than Patricia's wildflower honey, and that's saying something.